I mean, I was just listening to your Weird Al podcast the other day, and so you were sort of setting up this contrast between that you identify more with like a rock punk subculture, and he's kind of the god of this like nerd subculture. But at South by Southwest Interactive, which is like Nerdland, like a comedy person like you is like, I mean, you're a god here.
Oh yeah, well that's good. I wish I was more aware of my godliness. I never really identified as a nerd. I never really identified as anything. I think my search for an identity was sort of part of my process, and I seem to have landed on something that's working, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, it is working. It's like it's one of the most popular podcasts that exist, and it's interesting because there don't seem to be a lot of examples of podcasts that have become like viable businesses. I'm wondering, where does the podcast figure in Marc Maron Inc.? Is it the central supporting pillar, or is it more of a decorative column?
Well, no. I mean, we didn't have many expectations in going into it. I was strapped for money and in a low point in my life, and a guy who I worked with on radio for years as a producer, we partnered up and we started doing it. So we didn't have a business in mind, but as the numbers started to grow and it became popular, we started to feel stupid that we didn't have a business in mind. And certain things started to happen. We tried certain things, and just through trial and error and taking risks, we sort of established a business out of it through a bunch of different revenue streams. Because in order for a podcast to remain, to grow, it needs to be free. So we had to get enough of a catalog to like at this point, the most recent 50 are always free. And what eventually started to happen was we started with donations, and then as our numbers grew, we got some advertisers, and then we were going to start selling specific episodes. We figured out we had a pay site, and then we wanted to sell them on iTunes. And right when we started to partner up with an aggregator to sell certain episodes on iTunes, we partnered up with the server to make an app. So now we have an app. So now there's several different revenue streams. The apps are doing well. In order to listen to the older episodes, you have to have an app upgrade. The app is free, but you have to upgrade to premium, and you can stream all 200, but you always get the most recent 50. And because we're doing about 700 to 8,000 downloads a week, 700,000 to 800,000, our advertisers have become good, and we're getting some of the older terrestrial advertisers from radio, but there's also people like Sub Pop Records, Merge Records, Independent Television, HBO, Adult Swim, Comedy Central we're going to deal with. People like to have a sort of presence on the show. So each show we have a rate sheet, and there's different types of advertising.
You have a great style with the live reads, by the way. Are advertisers are they pretty, in on the joke when you're like having fun with them?
Well, I mean, some of them don't want you to cuss, but I mean, generally, that's old style radio. I mean, I may be, have language that didn't exist in old style radio, but I mean, host supported live reads is really as old a style of advertising as there is. And no, I mean, they don't have any problems. I mean, if we can sell it, we'll sell it,
How different is doing a podcast from radio, which you also have worked in a lot?
Well, there's no, you don't have to tease. You don't have to, worry about people coming back after a break. You don't have to reset. It's all, it's on demand listening, and your audience knows exactly what's going on, and you don't have any censorship, and you don't have any rules. The show can be whatever you want it to be. It's a completely free zone.
For a comedian or any other kind of writer or performer who wanted to make podcasting their medium, is there something you've learned, a piece of advice that you would give that's been key to your success?
I don't know if it's been key to my success, but in the time we're living in, it costs very little to make something sound great. I would suggest you spend some money on even that mic. Don't use like a snowball or talk into your computer. Invest in a couple of good mics. You can and get a mixer of some kind, either a USB or an analog mixer, and figure out what you're going to record on, whether it's GarageBand or what. You're just doing voices, and you can get a great sounding product for under $1,000. And if you have somebody who knows how to edit radio and put music in and stuff, then you're golden. And you can do that for very little money. So there's no excuse for anything to sound shitty, because we live in a world where you have access to things. And consistency. If you're going to do it, lock in, Figure out what day you're going to do it, and figure out how many times a week you're going to do it, and honor the schedule. Because if people can't build a relationship with your podcast, and because you're inconsistent or they don't know when the next one's going to come, then you're not going to ever even have a shot at holding an audience. But the rest is a gamble.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking.